Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass, and you're listening to It's All About Food. Once again, thank you for joining me today. I'm continuing interviewing people that I met at this wonderful event not too long ago, hosted by the Plant Power Metro New York organization. And it was really fun, great food, and just amazing people. And one of them was Dr. Rudrani Banik. Dr. Banik runs a private practice and is an associate professor of ophthalmology at Mount Sinai. Dr. Banik is also certified in integrative medicine. She focuses on the root cause of eye diseases and uses strategies based on nutrition, botanicals, lifestyle modification, and supplements. Dr. Banik's expertise is often featured as an expert in her field, having appeared on Good Morning America, the New York Times, Today Online, and many more. She has been voted Castle Connolly Top Doctor and New York Magazine's Best Doctor in Ophthalmology annually since 2017. Dr. Banik is the author of two best-selling books, Beyond Carrots, Best Foods for Eye Health A to Z, and Dr. Rani's Plant-Based Visionary Kitchen. She founded the Eye Summit, the first online free educational event focused entirely on the integrative strategies to protect and preserve vision. I am so excited to talk to you today. I know I'm going to learn a lot. So thanks
Thank
for
you so
joining
much.
me.
Thanks so much, Karen. It's really, really a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited too to share this information I'm passionate about. Absolutely.
And I know you're really busy right now, so it's like an extra thank you that you're making the time. Okay, so it's funny to me, the title of your first book, Beyond Carrots, because obviously the first thing many of us think of when it comes to nutrition and eyes, we all think about carrots. So, why is that? And why is there more than carrots for our eyes?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And there is this urban myth that many people believe, maybe they've been told by their parents, their grandparents, eat your carrots, you'll have good vision. It actually is a partial myth. So you can eat 10 carrots a day, it's not going to guarantee you perfect vision. But yes, carrots are important. They supply beta carotene, which our eyes need. Beta carotene gets turned into vitamin A, which is really important. But this whole urban myth, actually, it's a funny story
Ah,
or interesting historical anecdote. It dates back to World War II.
mm,
And what was happening is that the British were getting bombed by the Nazi German planes, and the planes were coming in the middle of the night and dropping their bombs. But the British were able to shoot down their planes, and the Germans couldn't figure out how is the Air Force finding our planes at night and shooting them down. So the British started spreading this rumor that their pilots were all eating carrots, and it gave them excellent night vision. And so the Germans believed it, and they had their military start having eating carrots. Basically, the whole world started eating carrots. There was a carrot surplus. But the truth is, the British had developed radar technology, and that's how they were detecting the planes and shooting them down. But the carrot myth stuck. And that's why I wrote the book, because a lot of people think, oh, I'll just eat this one food, which is a great food, by the way,
sure.
and my vision, I don't have to worry about it. But the truth is, our eyes are very complex. They are small, about the size of golf balls, but they have over 40 different parts that work together to give us our vision
Mm,
and over 200 cell types. And all of those different parts and cell types have different nutritional needs and different vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and botanicals that we need to keep our eyes healthy. So that's why I wrote the book, to really educate also my colleagues, not just the public, but my colleagues. There's a lot of my colleagues in ophthalmology, optometry, they don't know the first thing about eye nutrition. We were never
hmm
taught. So this is something I learned through my integrative functional medicine training, and I just want to share it with the world.
Well, I need to read that book. Best Foods for Eye Health A to Z.
It's available on Amazon. And by the way, it's on sale right now, 40% off. So it's a great deal.
Okay, excellent. Another thing that I remember hearing about eyes and eye health, is it true that the eye is the fastest healing organ?
It is not true. I would say probably. the skin is probably the fastest healing organ, but
Mm,
the eye is, it's again, it's so delicate.
mm.
And when there's damage to it, there's a lot of inflammatory cells that come in. They can create scar tissue. So it's just best to avoid any damage to begin with because
Yeah.
the eye, it can heal, but it can't regenerate itself. So unlike our skin, you get a cut and the skin will close and regenerate. The eye doesn't have that capacity to regenerate its cells in that way. So if there's damage, usually it's permanent damage or there is some kind of scar tissue that develops. So it's just better to be proactive about your vision and don't let things happen that you could have done something about and then you wish, oh, I wish I'd done that. I didn't know. And really that's my whole purpose, my mission at this point in my career is to educate people about what they need to do proactively.
Okay, so give me an example of what we might do that we should take care of that we wouldn't think needed immediate attention.
Okay, so this goes back to food, and I'll give you an example of macular degeneration or
Mm-hmm.
AMD, age-related macular degeneration, which I know a lot of people are concerned about. It is a condition that happens as people get older. So late 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond is typically when it happens. It can happen earlier, but usually later in those decades. And what a lot of people don't realize is that if you include certain foods, and you're going to love this, Karen, if you include foods like leafy greens, especially
Yay!
kale and spinach, in your
Ding!
diet, and a lot of them, at least 3 cups um, uh, per week, but I actually say per day, you're getting those eye nutrients that can fight against macular degeneration
Mm.
and reduce your risk of vision loss. So the studies have shown that if you eat that kind of a diet, high in leafy greens, and you want to be in the highest group possible, so the highest like 20%, or let me rephrase that, 80% of intake of leafy greens, you can reduce your risk of vision loss by 43%.
Mm.
That is better than any drug that we have on the market. That is better than any procedure that can be done simply by including those foods in your diet. It's very powerful.
Wow. Yeah, I remember learning a long time ago that vitamins, and I don't specifically remember which ones, but a vitamin-rich diet was better for macular degeneration than one where you were lacking.
Yeah. And specifically, I'll share there are two quote unquote eye vitamins. They're not really vitamins, they're carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. And many people have probably never even heard of these before. They're hard to remember, hard to pronounce, but these two nutrients are in leafy greens. They're
Mm.
also in other foods, so we can talk about whether other foods provide these nutrients. But our bodies can't make these nutrients, but these nutrients get absorbed by our body when we ingest them. They get deposited into the back of the eye, into the retina, actually, and they act as our natural light protectors, our light shields. So they act as UV protectors, and they act as like blue blocking protectors. So a lot of people say, "Oh, should I get blue blocking glasses?" And I say, "No, there's no proof behind blue blocking glasses. Instead, eat foods with those two nutrients, lutein and zeaxanthin, and you will protect your eyes from within." It's incredibly powerful, nature's defenses against our modern day life.
So, is a sign being more sensitive to light over time something you should be concerned about?
So that's a great question, Karen. There are a lot of different reasons why someone may be more sensitive to light. Some people have light-colored eyes to begin with. Blue
Mm.
eyes, hazel eyes are typically more sensitive, green eyes than brown eyes to light. But also, people who have dry eye are more sensitive to light. People who have migraine are more sensitive to light. And I've also seen this in my patients. Anecdotally, many women simply above the age of 50, as they're going through hormonal shifts in that midlife period, become more sensitive to light, where they never were sensitive before.
Wow.
So, what's exactly causing it? Again, it's multifactorial. But again, I have seen in so many of my patients by changing their diet, including these foods rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, or taking a supplement if they're not getting enough of the foods, their light sensitivity improves significantly.
Oh,
So it's a simple thing you can do.
okay. So there are some dots there being connected.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm only familiar with lutein and zeaxanthin because my dad had macular degeneration, and I saw all the supplements in his kitchen cabinet. Like, oh, you're taking this and that. Okay. And he ended up going in for injections, these regular injections for macro degeneration, and I I just got totally creeped out about that. I don't know how people can even do that, but maybe you could speak about what do the injections do?
Yeah, so that is unfortunately, if someone needs those monthly eye injections, it's an advanced stage of disease where their vision has already been affected and perhaps they've lost some central vision. And what these injections do is these are advanced drugs that are injected and they stop new blood vessels from leaking in the back of the eye. And that's what happens in advanced wet macular degeneration. These new blood vessels, you would think, oh, blood vessels, that's good, that's better blood supply. But these new blood vessels are not good. They're fragile, they're not healthy, and they leak and they bleed. And when they bleed, they cause vision loss. So the
Mm.
injections are meant to stop those blood vessels from growing and leaking. And sometimes other injections are coupled with that if there's a lot of fluid, swelling that's developed in the retina to get that swelling to go away. But what I'll say is the goal is not to ever get to that stage.
Right.
And
Exactly.
because once it's gotten to that stage, that is the standard of care. You go see your ophthalmologist, your retina specialist, they do these monthly eye injections. Nobody enjoys it. It's quite scary the first time. It's painful as well, even though there is numbing applied. It's not
Yeah.
an easy thing to endure. And like your father, millions of people around the world are getting these injections.
Mm.
They do work. I mean, they work to save, to arrest the progression, but they can't reverse the damage that's been done. So, as I was saying earlier, the eye is delicate. And once you get scar tissue, that's it. You can't reverse. At least we don't have the technology yet to take that scar tissue away. So, you don't want to get to that stage. So, do your dietary interventions. I actually have my next book, which is coming out in early 2027, is all about macular degeneration. So
Mhm.
it's called Beyond Leafy Greens. So I had Beyond Carrots, and the next book is
Right.
Beyond Leafy Greens. And I talk about not just that, but what else can you do? What does the science show to reduce one's risk of, first of all, developing the disease? Because it is family, there are genetics involved. So if
Yeah.
a person has a family member who's affected, then their risk is higher. If you have two parents affected, your risk is significantly higher. So there are things people should start doing early, not when they're in their 70s, but in their 40s, maybe even 30s, 30s,
Mm.
40s, 50s, 60s to prevent it from happening. So there's a lot of, you know, it's a quite a disabling condition, but there's a lot people can do within their control.
Wow. Just one more thing about macular degeneration, and that is what do we see when we have this disease?
I'm so glad
Or
you
what do
asked
we
that.
don't see?
Yeah. So imagine you're looking at someone's face. So we're looking at each other on Zoom right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you can't see the details of my face. So this circular area right here is hazy. It's
Mm.
dark. And so there's a big blotch right in the middle. And in the periphery, you can still make out things, like you can still see the background, the environment that the person is in. Imagine you're trying to read and you're looking at a
Mm.
page or you're looking at your phone or your tablet, and the central few letters or words are missing. So it's incredibly devastating because it affects central vision.
Right.
And people oftentimes, when they have that advanced disease, they can't read, they can't
Hmm.
drive, they can't work, they can't watch television, they can't see the faces of their loved ones, which again it's tragic because this is a preventable condition.
Right.
And I want to go back to what I said earlier about the genetics. I don't want to scare anyone.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared, please. No. If you have a family member But Karen, I'm sure you lead a very healthy lifestyle. What I'm telling you, you're already doing
Yeah.
these things. So
I
you've
believe in
already,
greens. I
yes,
totally, totally believe in greens. Yeah.
yeah. And so you've cut your risk down already. And so, but for those out there who are listening to this and had no idea what they should be doing, diet is really the cornerstone. And in terms of dietary studies, there is so much published out there. The science behind these dietary strategies it's very strong, and also the supplements. But the Mediterranean diet is just kind of a general approach that has also been shown to cut the risk of macular degeneration by 40 odd percent. So, but in my book, I share kind of like supercharging that. Like, what else can you do? Like, what more can you do to reduce your risk?
I'm just blown away. I mean, I know that dark leafy greens are great for preventing or reducing risk of cancer and heart disease. Dark leafy greens are the basis, should be the basis of our diets. And elephants and hippopotamus, gorillas seem to know that. That's where they get most of their protein, right? And protein, hello, dark leafy greens have protein. But I haven't heard really much at all, if anything, about macular degeneration and diet. And like you said, many of your colleagues don't even know this. This should be front page news, right? Nobody wants to lose their vision.
It should be. They just mandated that medical schools have, I think it's like at least 24 hours of training in nutrition. That's probably an underestimate of what we
Yeah.
really need. And most medical schools in the US are not meeting those requirements. Less than 25% of medical schools are meeting those requirements. So we don't learn it in medical school. When we get to residency, in ophthalmology, which is my field, it's a surgical field. And
Mm.
yes, I love to operate. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the technology and the eye-hand coordination and the skill behind microsurgery, that's cataracts and things like that. But this aspect of care, which is again nutrition, lifestyle, preventative care, is missing in most eye doctors' training.
Hmm.
It's missing.
Wow.
And I'm trying to change that. And so in my society, I'm doing a survey of my fellow eye care providers to find out how much do they know, where are the gaps, how come they don't know the science. And I'm going to take that to our leadership body and try to get it into the curriculum. Because
Mm.
right now it's a byline. Oh, lutein and zeaxanthin. It's like two sentences in our books, which are we have a 14 volume series that we have to learn, of education, like the curriculum. It's two sentences in there, and it's just not enough, based off of how we should be taking care of our patients. We need to do better for our patients.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay, everybody, I hope you're hearing this. So, by the time you need injections, should you not be driving? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. So that, not necessarily, because
Okay.
if a patient has good vision in one eye, but they need injections in the other, they can
Ah,
absolutely drive. Yeah. So
okay.
it depends on the status of each eye and how they work together. So many people retain their independence. They can navigate. They can do things with one eye. The risk is if the other eye gets involved, and this is where the supplements come in also. So the supplements are called AREDS supplements, AREDS, and that's probably what your father was taking.
Hmm.
That's my guess. And there's different AREDs. There's AREDS 1, there's AREDS 2, and now there's AREDS 3. So different versions, different formulations. But the AREDS studies, showed that people who have intermediate stage macular degeneration, so not the advanced stage yet, but if you have the intermediate stage of macular degeneration and you take these AREDS supplements, you can reduce your risk of progressing by about 28%. So it's not 100%, but it's something in addition. So diet is foundational, but on top of that, you stack the supplements on top of that.
So, what stage can you reverse it with diet and or supplements?
So it's tricky because you can't reverse, like if it's already developed, you
Yeah,
can't reverse
can't
the
go back.
changes that have happened, but
Okay,
you want it to stop progressing. And
sure.
maybe I should backtrack and give our audience an overview of the different stages of macular degeneration.
Yeah.
So there's early, there's intermediate, and there's advanced. In early, patients have no idea that they have this problem because there are no symptoms. But your eye doctor will be able to see changes in the back of the eye that
Mm.
are these little white deposits in the retina. They're called drusen. And I'm going to pull out my eye model here for anyone watching on YouTube so you can see. So this is the eyeball. And if we take a peek inside, I'm going to open it up. You see there's a lot going on. So all the
Right, cool.
40 different parts, etc. I'm going to take this apart here just to show you the part that's the retina. This is all the front part of the eye. But this here, this orange here is the back of the eye. This is the retina. And this here, this yellow dot, this is a little exaggerated in the model, but this is the macula, and this is where lutein and zeaxanthin are deposited. And
Mm.
lutein and zeaxanthin have an orange-yellow pigment. And that's why it's orange or it's yellow. So when we look in the back of the eye, we can see that macula, we can see the lutein zeaxanthin. But in macular degeneration, what happens is around this yellow area, you get these deposits. And they're small, they're microscopic, so you can only see them, kind of on an eye exam. And they're kind of like white stones, white pebbles, and they're called drusen,
Mm.
Drusen. And again, that's early. So you just have a couple of these drusen, they're there. This is when, again, diet is super important. Lifestyle is super important because you don't want it to get worse. Next, intermediate macular degeneration is when you get a lot more. So it's not just a few, you get a lot more and they
Okay.
start to
It's
grow.
snowing. It's a big snowstorm.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of like it looks like speckled, like all these little. It's kind of pretty, but but like these little pebbles in the back of the eye, and then advanced is when all those drusen that are developing there. These are actually waste products that our eye's not able to clear. So the
Mhm.
waste products stimulate inflammation, and they stimulate these new blood vessels to grow, and that's when people can develop wet macular degeneration. And the reason why this whole thing is called the macular degeneration, is because this central part of our retina here is the macula, and this is where our 20/20 vision comes from. So if you don't have a healthy macula, you will not be able to see 20/20.
I
And
can't.
that's, oh, you
I'm near
can't?
I'm nearsighted.
But with correction, hopefully if you
Yeah.
wear glasses or
Yeah.
contacts, you can get to 20/20. But that's why it affects central vision because it's right in the middle of our visual field. And so those are the stages. There's also another stage which is called advanced dry macular degeneration or geographic atrophy, or GA. You may have seen ads on television for it because now there are some new drugs out there that are injectables that can help to treat it. But
Mm.
basically, it's areas where there's loss of healthy retina. So big, it's called geographic atrophy because it looks like continents. Like if you're looking at a map, it kind of looks like big land masses back there because all those
Mm.
drusen have kind of come together and caused atrophy in the retina. And that's irreversible. Once you get to that stage, we don't have a way to bring it back. Maybe there will be in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe there'll be some stem cells or gene therapy we can apply. But as of right now in 2026, we don't have that available right now.
Right. The best we have is dark leafy green vegetables
Yes. Yes, yes,
with maybe
for
some
sure.
grated carrots.
Grated carrots. There are many other things also. In my book, Beyond Carrots, I go through 40 different foods that can help eye health. So berries are helpful for their anthocyanins, those pigments in berries that fight inflammation and oxidative
Hmm.
stress. Cruciferous vegetables are another great way to help to fight macular degeneration. I love broccoli because it has sulforaphane, and that's also been shown to help with macular degeneration. So there are all these different. So if you're not a fan of leafy greens, don't be discouraged. There are many other foods you can turn to.
Mm.
And I'll share one other great thing when it comes to food and lutein and zeaxanthin. So bell peppers,
Hmm.
specifically the yellow and orange bell peppers, have high amounts of zeaxanthin and lutein.
Mm. I
So when
love
you're
those peppers.
choosing bell pepper, yes, and they taste amazing.
Hmm.
When you're choosing bell peppers in the store, please don't gravitate towards the green ones, even though they have their own benefits in their own
And they're
sense.
less expensive because they are easy. They ripen. Well, they're less ripened.
Yes,
They-
they're definitely less expensive, but splurge a little bit and choose the
Get the
orange and the yellow ones.
colors.
Not even the red ones. Even the red ones don't have the same amount of eye
Oh.
nutrients as the yellow and orange bell peppers. So, yeah.
Why am I not surprised that all of these things that are good for the eye happen to be good for the rest of the body?
Yeah, that's what I tell my patients. When you make these dietary changes, yes, you may be doing it for your vision, but it's going to help your cardiovascular health. It's going to help your brain health. It's going to help
Right.
your skin health and your gut health, and probably a lot more, maybe even your mental health. So these dietary changes are not just for your eyes. It's a whole body approach.
Okay, so you probably know what the most important things are we should be thinking about. I have my own questions. Like, I'm thinking about people with dry eye. I'm thinking about floaters. Uh, I don't have dry eye. My sister does. But I've certainly got a lot of things floating around, and I always have. And I'm nearsighted. I'm wondering about LASIK surgery. I'm wondering about all kinds of things with the eye. I don't know what you want to talk about, but go.
Sure. Let's talk about dry eye. Let's talk about dry eye first because it's a big problem. And being on screens for hours a day, which we're doing right now, doesn't help dry eye because when we're looking at a screen, not only are you like looking at the backlit screen, so the light sensitivity, et cetera, can happen, but you don't blink enough. And
Mm.
I'll share this fun tidbit with you, Karen. Well, actually, I'll
Uh,
ask you, a little quiz, how many times do you think a normal person blinks per minute? Take a
mm,
guess.
20.
Exactly. Bingo. You got it.
I was
So
reading your mind.
yes, we're
I
in
may
tune.
blink a
We're in
little
sync.
more when I'm wearing contacts.
Yeah. So 15 to 20 times is the normal blink rate. Now, when we're on a screen, how many
Mm.
times do you think we blink per minute?
I'm opening my eyes and not blinking.
That's
I don't
what
know.
happens.
Yeah, we owe 10, half as much, I'm
Less.
guessing. Less.
Three to
Wow.
five times, three to
No,
five times per minute.
no.
Yes.
Oh,
So
gosh.
when your brain is so, and it's not just being on a screen, even if you're reading for prolonged periods of time, you forget to blink. And when you don't blink, your eyes will dry out. Our eyes have a tear film that coats the surface of the eye, the cornea, etc., and it lubricates. And so when you blink, you're spreading the tear film throughout the surface of the eye and keeping things nice and lubricated. So the image gets sent to the back of the eye in a focused manner. When you don't blink, your tears dry out and the light kind of bounces around and it doesn't get focused properly onto the back of the eye. So simply by blinking, you can improve your dry eye, especially when you're on a screen. Yeah, exactly. So we
I'm
call those,
blinking a lot
Karen,
now.
that's great. No, we call those butterfly blinks. So you can do like
Mm,
little, quick bursts of blinking, but you can
mm.
also do maybe once in a while a harder squeeze because
Oh.
then that activates the lacrimal glands to release more tears. So you can do like a harder squeeze. You'll feel immediately if anyone's listening, try doing this right now. Do a hard squeeze with your eyelids and then open and you feel how much more refreshed your eyes are.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so simple. So simple. So that's a simple thing for dry eye. But let's talk about nutrition for dry eye.
Okay.
So we know from the Women's Health Study that was done on nurses nationwide back in the late 80s, early 90s, that omegas are very important for dry eye.
Mm.
Women who had omegas in their diet, higher amounts of omegas, and by the way, the study looked at fish intake, but for those of us who are plant-based, there are other ways to get your omegas, as we know.
When
But
when you're saying omegas, do you mean omega 3 or omega
omega
6,
3,
omega 9,
DHA,
omega 3?
this
Okay.
was really focused on omega 3, so
Oh,
DHA,
okay.
EPA. Um, so women who had fish 2 to 3 times a week, mainly tuna, salmon, had lower risk for dry eye.
Mm.
But now from subsequent studies, we know that omegas in general, so it's not just three threes, DHA, EPA, but also sixes, specifically gamma linolenic acid, GLA,
Hmm.
omega 7 and omega 9. These are all great for our tear film and to lubricate the surface of the eye. So it's not so easy to get omega 6 from gamma GLA. It's not readily available. Like it's found in evening primrose oil, borage oil. Most of us are not eating that on a regular basis. But even if you have nuts, I mean, you're getting some omega 6s, and it's about the balance between threes and sixes, as I'm sure you've heard and many of your audience has heard. So have your omegas. Um, Being plant-based, I love omegas from chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds as well. And so I typically tell my patients like 2 tablespoons a day at least of those types of seeds to get your omegas. And if you do have oils in your diet, I prefer olive oil or avocado oil. So think about that. And
Hmm.
even avocados have great fats. And so, yeah, think about that
So
for
if
dry eye.
so if there's somebody like my sister who's doing all those things and has dry eyes, what could it be, or what else can she do?
So
Or
a
is
lot
that
of dry,
beyond the scope of this podcast?
no, I definitely can share. There are many different levels of dry eye therapy. So
Yeah.
the first level is diet and artificial tears, which are over the counter, right? Lubricating drops. When that doesn't work, or if it's not sufficient, then we have to look to see what is the underlying problem. And this may get a little bit scientific, but I'll try to simplify it a little
Okay.
bit. We have oil glands in our eyelids, and they look like tiny little fingers. They secrete oils for our tear film. We have about 25 to 30 glands in each lid.
Mm.
And a lot of dry eye is because those glands are not functioning properly, meaning that they're not secreting healthy oils. And so, because they're not secreting healthy oils, the tears just evaporate. So, you could be making enough tears, but if they're
Mm.
just evaporating, they're not staying on the surface of the eye. That's what about 85% of patients with dry eye suffer from is gland dysfunction. And so, for someone like your sister, now I haven't seen her, but I would suggest that she get her glands imaged. We have
Glands image. Okay.
technology to do an infrared camera picture. It's non-invasive, it's simple. It takes like less than a minute. Take a picture of the glands to see what do they look like. Are they structurally intact? Meaning, are they are they atrophying? Are they damaged? Are they getting shorter? Have they dropped out? Do we have is there gland loss? Because based off of that, like if someone has 50% gland loss, then they can be doing a lot of those things, but the glands need to be supported. And there are other therapies we can use to support the glands. There's something that in my office that I use called LipiFlow, which is a procedure. It's a 12-minute procedure in the office to heat up the glands and then open up the glands. So it's kind of like a deep facial deep massage for your eyelid glands where we heat it up to about 103 degrees. And then there's a gentle pulsation to express out any clogged material in the glands because oftentimes the glands can get clogged. That's why people get styes, by the way, when their glands get clogged. That's why what a sty
Mm.
is, or a form of a
Mm-hmm.
sty is when the glands get clogged.
Ooh.
But basically, there's LipiFlow, there's light therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So intense pulsed light, IPL, is another therapy that can be used that uses red light to the eyelids to stimulate the glands and to decrease inflammation. So there's a lot of therapies that your sister may explore, but these therapies are not DIY. Like she would have to work with her eye care provider to determine what's the best next step. For number one, get the glands imaged, but then determine the next step. And there's a lot of other tests we can do on the tears as well to figure out what the
Mm.
problem is.
That's
Now, the
fascinating.
other thing I'll say is when it comes to dry eye, women are much more predisposed to dry eye than men, much more likely to have dry eye.
Well, I'm just interested. This is all fascinating to me. I never thought that the eye had oils in it because I think about, when I'm cleaning my face and removing makeup when I wear makeup, you don't want to get oil in the eye because that just doesn't work out very well. But apparently we need some kind in there.
Yeah, so there are different types of oils that are used in some of these artificial tear formulations that are over some are just plain, but some have oils in them. So if you do have a gland issue, you can actually get a drop. Now, I would not just get, for example, I have patients who just go to Google and they
Yeah.
look up castor oil and they
Oh,
buy, organic cold pressed castor
hmm.
oil and they start putting it in their eyes. Please do not do that.
Do
That
not
is
do that.
not Yes. It's not meant for ophthalmic use. You want to buy something that comes from a reputable company because
Mm.
God forbid it be contaminated and cause you a major infection, corneal ulcer. You don't want anything like that to happen. So don't buy just any product. Go with some of the more reputable brands in eye care and get a drop that's formulated with oils if you have an issue. Include the oils in your diet or the fats in your diet, but then also do the tears with oils. But for women, the other thing I'll say is I've definitely seen this over the years. Women who are in midlife, whether that's perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, their glands don't function well because our glands have receptors for hormones. And when
Mm.
our hormone levels go down, and it's not just estrogen and progesterone, it's also testosterone.
Mm.
When those three sex hormone levels go down, our glands are not supported properly. And
Mm.
then sometimes the glands start to degenerate, atrophy, etc. And in some of my patients, I will prescribe them a compounded hormone cream, not to put inside the eye, but on the outside, because the
Mm.
glands are just, in the eyelid. They're not in the eye itself, but they're in the eyelid. So a compounded hormonal cream to put on the eyelids at nighttime to try to support those glands from within. So again, there's a multi-tiered approach, and really you need to work if you're listening to this, you're saying, I have dry eye, I need to do something about it. The artificial tears aren't working anymore. There's a lot people can do. Even
Yeah,
simple
this
things
is
like
great.
hot compresses can be helpful for dry
Hmm.
eye
Hmm.
to stimulate those glands.
Wow. Just to add to the detail, my sister's had Graves' disease for a long time, and she had the pressure and had numerous surgeries to correct for that. So she's had quite a history with her eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease, and people
Yeah.
with autoimmune diseases are more likely to have dry eye as well.
Okay. One more thing. Ah, okay. Moving on. I mentioned floaters. Are floaters okay?
Yes, so I have them too, Karen. I've had floaters since I was 5 years old.
Mm.
And I remember this day, 5 years old. I said, Mom, there's a bug in the room. There's a fly. And she said, There's
Yeah,
no
right.
fly.
You're like
And I,
trying to kid
yeah,
it.
and I was trying to like get it out. And basically over the years, my floaters have increased
Mm.
significantly.
Mm.
And let me share with you on the eye model what a floater
Cool.
is. So
Ooh.
we'll go back. Let me just give you the full tour. Should we do that? A
Yeah.
full tour of the eye because I think I jumped into the retina, but let me put it back
I
together
just
and then
want
I'll
to
start.
say to those of you who are listening and cannot watch this, you can go to responsibleeatingandliving.com and look for this interview, and the video will be there for you.
Okay. So let's start from the front of the eye. Put it all back together. So
Hmm.
here's the eyeball cross section. Okay. The very front part of the eye, this is a clear structure and it's
Mm.
the cornea. You can see it's kind of dome shaped. And this is what gets affected with dry eye. When the cornea is dry, people feel burning, irritation, blurry vision, redness. That's what dry eye affects. Next, we have the iris, which is the colored part of the eye. You can see here
Mm.
it's like a
Hmm.
beautiful blue hazel color, but depending on your eye color, mine is brown. And I don't know, Karen, I think you have
Mine's
hazel
brown.
eyes.
It's
Oh,
light
okay.
brown. They
Yeah.
match my hair, I like to say.
Yeah, no, beautiful eyes. I love brown eyes, by the way. So this is the iris, and in the center is an opening. That's the pupil. And normally when you look at someone, it looks black, but here you can see that it's clear. It's
It's
just,
a donut.
it's
The
it
iris is a little donut.
it is, yeah, and it changes shape depending on the lighting. So if you
Mm.
have it's a bright area, your pupil's going to be small.
Shrink.
If it's a
Hmm.
dark room, your pupil's going to be big, letting in more light so you can focus better. Next, I don't know if you can see it from here. This right here, this curved
Hmm.
structure is the lens. And
Right.
we all have a lens inside of our eye to help us focus. If we didn't have this, we wouldn't be able to focus. And it changes shape when we're looking at distance or something intermediate like the computer screen, or we're looking at
Is
something
it
up close.
soft? Is it
So when
soft?
we're young, it's soft and flexible. As
Mm-hmm.
we get older, it becomes stiff. And when it
Oh.
becomes stiff, it becomes harder to read. And that's what presbyopia is. We all get this problem in our 40s, early 50s, where we can't read up close and we have to hold things further away or we have to
Mm.
wear reading glasses. That's because this lens, it's normally clear and flexible, becomes
Mm-hmm.
stiff. And then
I don't
eventually,
have that problem. I can
excellent, because
see
probably
close up.
because you're nearsighted. So people
Yeah.
who are nearsighted are naturally focused for up close, but people who are, normal sighted or farsighted, they will experience this problem. This lens will become, as people get older, it will start to
Mm.
oxidize, and it will start to go yellow.
Ew.
And just like a dirty window. So you have a clear window when you're young. As people get older, it becomes a little bit hazy, opaque. That's what a cataract is. So
Ah, the
when
cataract.
this lens opacifies with age, we call it a cataract. And imagine, lights coming in through, oh, I just lost my lens. It fell apart. But lights coming in through here. If this lens is yellow, it's not going to let as much light in, and things are going to
Mm-hmm.
be dimmer, hazier. Those are some symptoms of cataract. Sometimes we have glare, halos. That's what a cataract is. Now, moving to the back of the eye. This plastic structure here is the jelly in the back of the eye. Now, in the eye, it's mainly water. This jelly is called the vitreous. It's water and some proteins, including collagen and hyaluronidase. Hyaluronic acid, not hyaluronidase. So basically, there's collagen in here. When we're young, this jelly is firm like jello. So imagine this is like kind of, a little jiggly. As we get older, it starts to liquefy. And when
Oh.
it liquefies, we can see the little collagen fibrils floating around. And
Hmm.
that's what people experience as floaters.
Oh. So even though we were young, we saw some.
So, yes, so people who are myopic, who are nearsighted, their
Mm.
jelly starts to liquefy earlier.
Hmm.
So, for me, my jelly probably started to liquefy at age 5, and I
Right.
started to see those little black things. Most people have floaters, though. So,
Mm.
over 75% of people, based on surveys, have floaters. So, it's actually normal. It's more normal to have them than to not have them in adulthood.
I'm
And don't be,
normal.
yeah, exactly. Don't be alarmed. One caveat, if you have new onset floaters, let's say you've never had floaters before, you've had floaters, but something is different. You're starting to see a lot more of them, or maybe you're starting to see flashing lights. Please go see your eye doctor, because that could signify that there could be a retinal tear or retinal detachment with these new floaters. So I don't want to get into it too much because it's a little bit
Sure.
maybe beyond the scope of our conversation, but go see your eye doctor if your floaters change. That's not normal, but most people have floaters. What can you do
Yeah.
about floaters? I wish there was a magic solution, but the
Yeah.
eye is, think of it like a snow globe. It's a closed system. Okay, I took
Mm.
it apart, but I'll put it together. The whole thing is a closed system. So if you have floaters, you shake it around, you see more floaters. Eventually, they settle to the bottom with gravity, but there's no way to take the floaters out unless we do it surgically. And
Mm.
that's really not something that most eye doctors will recommend, because the risks of doing that type of eye surgery called a vitrectomy to take out the jelly, to take all of this jelly out, replace it with saline, the risk of that is far greater than the benefit. So we typically, for floaters alone, we do not recommend a surgery. Just
Mhm.
train your brain to it. Karen, how do you
I'm
deal with your floaters? I'm
I'm
curious.
cool with
Like when
them.
you,
I'm cool with them. They don't bother me. I once had a floater explosion. it was, I was in a parking lot and all of a sudden, choo, and it lasted a few minutes and it was done. And I did go and have my eyes checked right after that. And I was fine. No tears or anything. But otherwise, it's just like a fly or something. And I mean, I know we're going to talk about this on your podcast, Visual Snow Syndrome. I see a lot of interesting things that I'm not supposed
Yes.
to see, and floaters are one of them.
Yes, they are part of our visual experience. And I love what you said earlier about you just kind of ignore them and you have to put them in the background because if you fixate on the floaters, if you kind of like are so bothered by the floaters, it can affect your quality of life and it can
Mhm.
make you anxious and it can make you annoyed and depressed. So please, I know it's hard, but you have to train your brain to ignore the floaters. It's part of your body. And
But
as
the
long as it's not
floaters,
doing you any harm, leave it
yeah,
be.
the floaters are real though, as
They are
opposed to
real.
other things that we see that are neurological and not really real. And that's a whole
Yeah.
nother
And
another chapter.
yeah, and a little preview into your interview with me on my podcast, Karen. People with visual snow see all kinds of things. Some of them are normal in the eye that we experience kind of amplified, and other things that are not there. So some things are from the eye and some things are coming from the brain. And again, we have to learn how to ignore some of these
Yeah.
unusual visual disturbances that can happen.
Okay, you mentioned cataracts. Is there anything we can do to prevent them?
UV protection, very important.
Mm.
So I always recommend wearing 100% UVA, UVB blocking glasses. So look for like a little sticker that says 100% UVA, UVB blocking, or the sticker may say UV 400, which is equivalent. And it doesn't matter the price of your sunglasses. Like if you get a $10 pair versus a $300 pair,
Mm.
it does not matter. That's a personal choice, but look for the sticker because then you know it's protecting your eyes. Eating a diet that's rich in, which most of us are probably already doing if you're listening to the podcast, but fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. It's going to provide you with the antioxidants like vitamin A and C and E to prevent cataracts. And the third thing I'll say is if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, is preventing those high glucose spikes. Because when you have high sugar, high hyperglycemia in the blood, it will also accelerate cataracts. So people who
Mm.
are diabetic tend to get cataracts at a much younger age than people who are not. So just be mindful of that, of,
Wow.
maybe wear like a continuous glucose monitor, which I recommend to everyone. I don't, have you ever done it, Karen?
I have
Continuous
not. I
glucose
like
monitor?
I like collecting data, but I don't know. You think I should have
I'll
one?
tell you, I've done it twice. I do it
Uh-huh.
once a year,
Mm.
and it gives me my patterns. So, for
Mm.
example, I know how my body is going to react when I eat a certain food or eat different foods in combination. I'll give you this example. I'm usually rushing to get out of the house in the morning to get to the office and see patients. So I would grab a banana out on my way out. And you would think, oh, a
Mm-hmm.
banana, that's great, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's healthy food, it's got a lot of great nutrients. And if I had that banana on its own with my tea or coffee, my blood sugar would just spike,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
spike. But if I had some protein with the banana, it would not. It would go up a little bit, but it wouldn't make
Right.
that huge spike up and then spike and then, huge fall down. So, excuse me, I learned that by wearing the continuous glucose monitor.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And now I know I cannot have simple sugars by themselves. I need to have it with some form of protein or healthy fat. And also, interestingly, if I had a banana versus I had a bowl of berries, the berries would not cause my blood sugar to spike
Mm-hmm.
because they have a lower glycemic index.
Right.
So I learned, and everyone's different. So that was my pattern, but your pattern may be totally different. And just to know how your body is reacting to certain foods that you may love, and you may think, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is so healthy for me. But for some people, it may be causing these blood sugar spikes.
Interesting. Well, I had a banana this morning, but I had it with homemade almond butter. So
Wonderful.
that probably balanced it out. I typically have
Hopefully that,
banana mixed with other things, other fruits and oatmeal and nuts and seeds. So, but you only know until you test it, right?
yeah. And I'm knock on wood. I don't have any wood around me, but knock on wood, I'm not
I'll
diabetic. I'm
knock.
not pre-diabetic, but it runs in my family. So I
Hmm.
want to be proactive about it. And that's why it was important for me to do it. And I will continue doing it once a year. It's basically 2 weeks. You wear the monitor on your arm and it reads out every 15 minutes. You can look on your phone and it will tell you it's not exact, but it'll give you the pattern of
Interesting.
your blood sugar.
Okay.
It's not the
Ooh,
same as doing a finger stick, which is the exact test, but it's a great tool. It's something that we can do.
one more cataract question. Does it affect nearsighted or farsighted people more or less, or it's the same for everybody?
So it depends. I would say that there are some people, if they are very nearsighted, like high myopia, usually like -9 and above, they
Mm-hmm.
may actually have an earlier cataract formation
Okay.
because of the high. Do you know what your numbers are, Karen? Do you want to
Yeah, I'm
share?
like -5, -6.
Yeah, you're like a moderate myope. I'm kind of in that range. I'm like
Hmm.
-3 something and -2 something. So a moderate myope. So it shouldn't really accelerate cataract formation that much. But there is this thing called second sight because sometimes people are reliant on their glasses and then they develop a cataract and then they're able to read again without their glasses. And so that's a change in the lens because the lens, as it becomes opaque, also sometimes gets a little thicker and it can change the power. So you may actually enjoy some better vision for reading if you are developing a cataract.
Right.
But
Okay.
cataracts happen to all of us. If you're fortunate to live long enough, you will
You'll get
develop a
one.
cataract.
Goody.
Not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Okay. Hmm. All right. We have a few minutes left. What shall we talk about that we haven't talked about
I
that's
think
important?
I think one of the biggest things you can do for your eye health is to go see your eye doctor once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it is recommended that anyone above the age of 40 have a comprehensive eye exam once a year. So just like
And
we go see our
do they
primary,
all give you the same tests, or should we know what we're getting and make
so
sure
you
we're
should,
getting them?
yeah, I mean, so a lot of people think, oh, an eye exam is all about glasses or contacts, prescriptions, etc. It's not. That's just one part of the eye exam. The eye exam is also about examining the eye, looking for things like dry eye, cataracts, glaucoma, which we haven't talked about, or maybe we can touch a little bit on,
Sure.
macular degeneration, looking, screening for all of those potentially blinding diseases, and then also looking at the retina in the back of the eye, looking for things like we can detect over 200 medical conditions on an eye exam. So
Hmm.
we can look for diabetes. I've diagnosed countless patients with diabetes. They had no idea they had it, but their eye
Wow.
exam showed that they had diabetes. So they got diagnosed because they went for an eye exam. Diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune conditions, Graves' disease is one of them as well. Like all
Hmm.
of these things can be picked up on an eye exam. So that's why people should get their annual eye checkup. And the things you should request, hopefully your eye doctor is doing this already, but not just a check of your vision, but your eye pressure
That's
and
the
a
puff test.
dilate. So
Is
the
that
puff test is done. It's not accurate. So we
okay?
recommend it's a blue light. We use a dye and then a blue light, and that's the most accurate way to check eye pressure. There
Hmm.
are some other devices that can be used, like handheld devices that your eye doctor may use to check your eye pressure, but the puff test is not accurate, unfortunately. And I
Okay.
think it's kind of fallen out of favor, and a lot of people are just, even eye doctors, they just don't offer it anymore because they know it's not accurate. So there are other ways to check eye pressure.
Okay.
But a dilated exam is very important.
Hmm.
And dilation is when your doctor puts drops in your eyes it makes that pupil really, really big. So we can see in the back of the eye, we can see the full retina, the
Mm.
360 degrees of the retina. So don't just skip the dilation. Just, a lot of patients will say, oh, I'm driving today, or I have to go back to work. I don't want to be dilated. I'll be blurry for a few hours, or I'll be light sensitive. Please do not skip that dilated eye exam
Wow.
because we can pick up so much. We can pick up retinal tears. We can pick up detachments that are in the periphery that an undilated exam may miss. And there are some eye doctors now who are just substituting the dilated eye exam with a photograph of the back of the eye, like a picture, saying, oh, get this done. We'll be able to see it all. We cannot. Even with
Huh.
a photograph, it does not give us the same visibility or air, the same view that a dilated eye exam will give us.
Okay, heard. I need to get a dilated eye exam. I
Yeah,
don't like but I
add it
will.
to your annual. Like, I tell my patients, how often do you go see your dentist? Or I ask them, and most of them will say twice a
Mhm.
year.
Mm.
And so that's part of routine care. Why is it that the eye exam is not considered part of routine care? It needs to be. And I think public awareness of this is very, so if you're listening, don't just make your appointment if you haven't seen your eye doctor yet this year, but tell all your family and friends, please go make that eye appointment. What's more important than our vision, right? I mean, I think it's our
Exactly.
it's our most
Thank
important
you.
sense,
This is a
and we need
great,
to protect it.
it's a
Yeah.
great way to wrap up this hour with Dr. Rudrani Banik. I've learned so much, and I hope you're all going to run and get your eye exams and eat your greens and get all that lutein and zeaxanthin in the
And
back
blink.
of our maculars.
Yeah, and blink and blink. Don't forget to blink.
And blink, right? Blink, blink, blink. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Blink and have a delicious week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.